The alarm screamed through the mining colony like a dying animal. Hyun dropped his coffee mug and ran toward the security office. He had been the colony's security chief for 2 years now, and this was the first time the perimeter breach alarm had gone off for real. Through the window, he saw them. Ships. Not human ships. They were dark green, shaped like massive beetles, and there were at least 10 of them descending through Titan's thin atmosphere. Hyun's heart hammered in his chest as he grabbed his radio. "All personnel, this is not a drill. We have unidentified ships landing near the south entrance. Everyone get to the safe rooms now." The colony had 43 people. 23 were miners, 12 were support staff, and 8 were security. Hyun had trained in mixed martial arts back on Earth before he took this job. He had hoped he would never need those skills here. That hope died as the first alien soldiers appeared on the security cameras. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with scales that gleamed like dark emeralds. They walked on 2 legs but moved like reptiles, quick and precise. Each one carried a weapon that looked like a rifle but pulsed with blue energy. "The Drevik," Hyun's computer informed him after a quick scan. "A warrior race from the Outer Rim. Why are they here?" asked Bora, one of his security officers. She was young, barely 25, and her hands shook as she checked her weapon. "I don't know," Hyun said, "but we need to slow them down until help arrives." The Drevik didn't bother with warnings. They blasted through the south entrance airlock with some kind of explosive charge. The metal door, designed to withstand asteroid impacts, melted like butter. 200 alien soldiers poured into the colony. Hyun had 8 security officers and 12 miners who knew how to handle tools that could double as weapons. 20 people against 200. The math was simple and terrifying. "Fall back to Section C," Hyun ordered. "Use the narrow corridors. They can't surround us if they have to come at us in small groups." The Drevik moved through the colony like they owned it. They were efficient, professional, clearly experienced soldiers. But they had made one mistake. They assumed the humans would surrender. Hyun's team set up their first defense in a corridor junction. When the first group of Drevik soldiers rounded the corner, they met a wall of mining laser fire. The aliens had shields, but the mining lasers were designed to cut through rock. 3 Drevik went down before the others retreated. "They're not expecting us to fight back," said Minjae, one of the miners. He was a big man with arms like tree trunks from years of manual labor. "Good," Hyun said. "Let's keep surprising them." The colony had been his home for 2 years. He knew every corridor, every service tunnel, every maintenance shaft. The Drevik had numbers and better weapons, but Hyun had something more valuable. He knew the terrain. He split his people into 3 groups. Each group would hit the Drevik from different angles, then fall back before the aliens could organize a response. It was guerrilla warfare, something humans had perfected over thousands of years of fighting on Earth. The Drevik learned quickly, though. After losing 20 soldiers in the first few hours, they changed tactics. They started using drones to scout ahead. They moved in larger groups. They were adapting, but so was Hyun. "Bora, take your team to the engineering section. Vent the atmosphere in corridors 5 through 8. Minjae rigged the mining explosives in the junction points. When I give the signal, blow them." The Drevik commander, a massive alien with darker scales and scars covering his face, grew frustrated. His soldiers reported that the humans were everywhere and nowhere. They would attack, cause casualties, then vanish into the colony's maze of tunnels. What the commander didn't understand was human endurance. His soldiers needed rest every 4 hours. They needed specific temperatures and atmospheric conditions. The humans kept fighting, hour after hour, day after day, with minimal sleep and barely any food. On the second day, Hyun's team was down to 15 people. They had lost 3 security officers and 2 miners, but the Drevik had lost 60 soldiers. The aliens were starting to hesitate before entering corridors. They were afraid. Hyun used that fear. He set up traps using mining equipment. He vented sections of the colony to create confusion. He even used the colony's speakers to play recordings of human voices in empty corridors, making the Drevik waste time and ammunition shooting at ghosts. The third day was the hardest. Everyone was exhausted. They were running out of ammunition and supplies. Hyun's left arm had been burned by a Drevik energy weapon, and he could barely move it. But he kept going. They all kept going. Why won't they quit? The Drevik commander demanded of his officers. They have no chance of victory. They have no reinforcements coming. Why do they keep fighting? None of his officers had an answer. In Dravic culture, warriors surrendered when defeat was certain. It was honorable to recognize superior force. These humans seemed to have no concept of honorable surrender. What the Dravic didn't know was that Hyun had managed to send a distress signal on the first day. Help was coming. They just had to survive long enough for it to arrive. On the morning of the fourth day, Earth's military response fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside Titan. 50 warships, each one bristling with weapons. The Dravic commander took one look at his tactical display and ordered an immediate retreat. The alien soldiers pulled back to their ships and fled into space, leaving behind 97 dead and 23 wounded. They had come to conquer a mining colony and had been fought to a standstill by 20 civilians. When the Earth forces arrived at the colony, they found Hyun and his team still at their defensive positions, weapons ready, looking like they had fought through hell itself, which in a way they had. The captain of the Earth fleet stared at Hyun in disbelief. "You held them off for 3 days? With mining equipment and 20 people?" Hyun looked at the captain with tired eyes. "They wanted our home," he said simply. "We weren't going to give it to them." The story of Titan colony spread through both human and alien space like wildfire. The Galactic Council, which had barely acknowledged humanity's existence, suddenly wanted to know everything about these strange apes from Earth who refused to know when they were beaten. Ambassador Minji received the Council's inquiry with a thin smile. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They were very, very bad at giving up. The Galactic Council's research facility orbited a quiet moon far from any major trade routes. Thrixol, the lead scientist, adjusted his compound eyes as he reviewed the data for the 100th time. The numbers made no sense. "These readings must be wrong," he clicked to his assistant. Thrixol belonged to the Chithi race, insect-like beings known for their scientific precision. No carbon-based life form can maintain activity for this long without entering a rest cycle. His assistant checked the instruments. "The equipment is functioning correctly, lead researcher. The human subject has been running for 2 hours and 17 minutes without stopping." Thrixol watched through the observation window as Daehyun jogged steadily on the testing platform. The human was sweating heavily, his breathing was fast, but he showed no signs of stopping. Medical sensors attached to his body transmitted constant data to the research computers. Daehyun had volunteered for these tests after Earth's government asked for cooperation with the Galactic Council's inquiry. He was a medical officer from the Earth Space Force, 32 years old, and considered average by human standards. That was what worried Thrixol the most. If this was an average human, what were their exceptional specimens capable of? "How much longer can he continue?" Thrixol asked. "The human claims he can maintain this pace for several more hours," the assistant replied. "Several hours." Thrixol's species could sprint quickly, but only for minutes before exhaustion set in. Most predator species in the galaxy operated the same way. Quick bursts of speed, then rest. These humans were different. After 4 hours, Thrixol stopped the test. Not because Daehyun was tired, but because the research team needed rest. The scientists took shifts observing the human, and Thrixol found himself increasingly disturbed by what he learned. "Tell me about human evolution," Thrixol asked Daehyun during a break between tests. Daehyun drank water and smiled. "We come from a planet called Earth. It's what we call a death world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators everywhere. Our ancestors survived by being able to outlast everything that wanted to kill them." Outlast? Thrixol didn't understand the concept. "We're not the strongest," Daehyun explained. "We're not the fastest. But we can keep going when everything else has to stop. We hunted by following animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We survived by refusing to quit." The next test involved injury simulation. Thrixol needed to understand human pain tolerance and recovery ability. What he discovered made him want to end the research and recommend that the Council classify humans as a dangerous species immediately. Daehyun's body had backup systems for almost everything. 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, even 2 brain hemispheres that could partially compensate for each other. If one system failed, another took over. His blood could clot rapidly to seal wounds. His bones were dense and strong, designed to handle stress. "What happens when a human is injured in combat?" Thrixol asked. "Depends on the injury," Daehyun said. "But we have something called an adrenaline response. Our body releases chemicals that temporarily increase our strength, speed up our reactions, and reduce pain. We call it a fight-or-flight response. Reduce pain? Thrixol was horrified. You can ignore damage to your body? For a while, yes. It's not healthy long-term, but in a survival situation, it keeps us fighting when we should be dead. So man, the human xenobiologist assigned to help with the research, provided context that made everything worse. She sat with Thrixol in his office and showed him historical records from Earth. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire recorded history, she said, pulling up images on a display. We've developed thousands of different combat styles, weapons, strategies. Fighting is part of our culture. Thrixol looked at the images. Humans with primitive weapons killing each other in massive battles. Humans with advanced technology destroying entire cities. Humans in spacesuits training for combat in zero gravity. Why? He asked. Why so much violence? Earth was crowded, Samin explained. Limited resources, lots of different groups competing for them. We evolved in an environment where you either learned to fight or you died. It's in our genetics now. She showed him videos of human endurance events, people running over 100 miles through deserts, swimmers crossing vast oceans, climbers scaling mountains without oxygen. We do these things for fun, Soman said. We test ourselves constantly. We push our bodies to their limits because that's how we prove we're alive. Thrixol felt something he had never experienced before when looking at an alien species. Fear. Not rational concern, but deep primitive fear. The final test was the worst. Thrixol asked Daehyun to fight against a combat drone programmed with tactics from various galactic warrior races. The drone was set to training mode, using non-lethal force. Daehyun fought for 20 minutes straight. The drone landed hits, but the human kept adapting, kept learning, kept fighting. When Thrixol finally stopped the test, Daehyun was bruised and breathing hard, but he was still on his feet. How do you keep going? Thrixol asked. You were hurt. You were tired. Why didn't you stop? Daehyun looked at him with an expression Thrixol couldn't read. Because stopping means dying. My ancestors learned that millions of years ago. The ones who gave up didn't survive. We're descended from the ones who refused to quit no matter how bad things got. Thrixol compiled his report over the next week. He included all the data, all the tests, all the observations. His conclusion was simple and terrifying. Humans were persistence predators on a scale the galaxy had never seen. They could fight longer, survive more damage, and adapt faster than any known species. They didn't have the strongest bite or the sharpest claws, but they had something more dangerous. They had endurance that bordered on the supernatural, and a stubborn refusal to accept defeat. What should we do? His assistant asked when the report was complete. Thrixol thought about the Titan colony incident. 20 humans against 200 trained soldiers. 3 days of constant combat. The humans had won by simply refusing to lose. We should be very, very careful about making them angry, Thrixol said. He sent his report to the Galactic Council with a priority classification. The council members read it with growing alarm. One representative, a peaceful herbivore species, asked the question everyone was thinking. If these humans are so dangerous, should we consider them a threat? Ambassador Minji attended the session via holographic link from Earth. She had read the report and knew what the council was thinking. You're asking the wrong question, she said calmly. You shouldn't ask if we're a threat. You should ask if you want us as allies or enemies, because I promise you, you don't want us as enemies. The council chamber fell silent. They were beginning to understand what it meant to share a galaxy with persistence hunters who had learned to hunt among the stars. The diplomatic transport moved through space on a routine mission. Ambassador Minji sat in her quarters reviewing trade agreements, unaware that the Dravic Empire had decided to salvage their pride through violence. Jiho stood at his security station on the bridge, watching the sensors with practiced eyes. He had been protecting diplomatic personnel for 5 years, and his instincts were sharp. When 3 unidentified ships appeared on the edge of scanner range, those instincts screamed danger. Ma'am, we have company, he said over the intercom. 3 vessels, Dravic configuration, moving to intercept. Minji arrived on the bridge within seconds. Dravic out here? This is neutral space. They don't seem to care about that, Jiho replied, watching the tactical display. The Dravic ships were fast, military-grade, and they were moving with clear hostile intent. The lead Dravic ship broadcast a message. Human vessel surrender Ambassador Minji and the security chief from Titan colony. Comply immediately or be destroyed, so that was it. The Dravic wanted revenge for their humiliation at Titan. They wanted to capture Hyun and probably Minji too to study them, to understand how they had been defeated. "How long until Earth forces can reach us?" Minji asked the pilot. 4 hours minimum, the pilot replied. Jiho checked his team. He had 5 security officers on board, all trained already. The ship also had 2 engineers and a medical officer. 8 people total against 3 Dravik military vessels carrying who knew how many soldiers. "We can't outrun them," Jiho said, "and we can't outgun them, but we can make them regret attacking us." The Dravik ships moved into position, preparing to board. Their commander, a veteran of dozens of campaigns, expected a quick capture. Humans had fought well defending a fortified position at Titan, but in open space, boarding a single transport ship, the Dravik would have every advantage. The commander had never fought humans in a fluid combat situation. That was a mistake. The Dravik breached the transport's airlock with cutting torches and charged in with overwhelming force. 30 elite commandos, the best the Empire could field. They moved in tight formation, covering each other professionally, expecting the humans to hole up in a defensive position. Instead, they found an empty corridor. "Spread out," the Dravik leader ordered. "Find them." Jiho watched from his position in the ceiling maintenance shaft. The Dravik were good soldiers, but they were following standard military doctrine. They were predictable. Humans had learned thousands of years ago that predictable meant dead. He made a quick hand gesture. His team members, hidden in various locations throughout the ship, acknowledged with brief signals. They had trained together for years. They didn't need words to communicate. The first Dravik squad moved into the cargo bay. Yuna, the human engineer, triggered a system override she had programmed minutes earlier. The artificial gravity in that section reversed, slamming the Dravik soldiers into the ceiling. Before they could recover, the gravity shut off completely, leaving them floating helplessly. 2 human security officers came through the side doors, using magnetic boots to stay anchored. They picked off the disoriented Dravik with precise weapons fire. The engagement lasted 15 seconds. 7 Dravik down, 0 human casualties. What just happened? The Dravik commander demanded over his team's radio. No answer. The soldiers in the cargo bay were unconscious or dead. He sent another squad, this time prepared for environmental tricks. They entered the crew quarters carefully, scanning for traps. They found none. The room was empty, quiet. Then the humans attacked from 3 directions at once. Not from the doors or obvious positions, but from air vents, floor panels, and ceiling tiles. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the Dravik could even aim. The squad leader tried to organize a defense, but every time his soldiers focused on one direction, humans attacked from another. It was like fighting ghosts who could read his mind. Jiho moved through the ship like water, flowing from position to position, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. His team did the same. They had practiced this kind of mobile defense hundreds of times. In the narrow corridors of a ship, a small force that knew the terrain could defeat a much larger one. But the Dravik were adapting too. They brought up thermal sensors to track the humans through walls. They started using explosives to create new passages, bypassing the corridors where the humans had advantages. So Jiho adapted again. He had Yuna flood certain sections with supercooled air from the life support system, masking thermal signatures. He set up false heat sources using the ship's equipment to create phantom targets. The Dravik found themselves shooting at maintenance robots, while real humans attacked from unexpected angles. Their commander grew frustrated. These humans were changing tactics faster than he could counter them. What the commander didn't understand was human pack-hunting instinct. Humans had evolved to hunt in groups, to coordinate without constant communication, to react to changing situations instantly. Jiho's team wasn't following a rigid plan. They were flowing like a living thing, each member responding to what the others were doing without needing orders. When 3 Dravik soldiers cornered 1 human security officer in the medical bay, they thought they had finally won an engagement. Then that officer did something the Dravik didn't expect. He charged them. The Dravik hesitated for a split second, confused by the suicidal tactic. In that second, 2 more humans appeared from side positions and opened fire. The cornered officer wasn't trapped. He was bait. The Dravik lost 15 more soldiers to that trap. Their commander finally understood. These humans weren't just defending. They were hunting his soldiers through the ship, using tactics that changed moment by moment. "Fall back," he ordered. "Regroup at the breach point, but falling back meant exposing their retreat. Jiho's team hit them hard as they withdrew, using the Dravik's own weapons against them. Yuna had figured out how to reprogram a captured Dravik rifle during the fighting, and now she was using it with deadly effectiveness. The Dravik made it back to their ships with only 12 soldiers out of 30. The commander stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His elite commandos had been defeated by 8 humans on a transport ship. How? He asked no one in particular. How did they coordinate so perfectly? How did they adapt so quickly? His tactical officer had no answer. In Dravik military doctrine, every action followed a plan. Deviation from the plan required new orders from command. These humans had no such limitations. They fought like they were all part of one mind, making decisions in fractions of a second. The Dravik ships retreated before Earth reinforcements arrived. When the rescue fleet reached the diplomatic transport, they found Jiho and his team calmly repairing the damage to the ship. What happened here? The rescue commander asked, looking at the Dravik bodies being stored in the cargo bay. Jiho shrugged. They tried to board us. We didn't let them. The rescue commander counted 12 human fighters against 30 Dravik elite commandos.
How many casualties did you take?
3 wounded, none serious, Jiho replied. Yuna took a graze across her shoulder, and 2 of my security team got knocked around when we vented atmosphere in Section C. They'll be fine. The story reached the Dravik Empire within days. The military council convened to discuss what had happened. They reviewed the combat recordings from the surviving soldiers' armor cameras. What they saw disturbed them deeply. They fight without orders, one general observed. Each warrior acts independently but in perfect coordination with the others. They adapt faster than we can counter, another said. By the time we identify a pattern, they've already changed to something new. They're not individuals, a third general said quietly. They're a pack, a hunting pack from a predator species we don't understand. The Dravik had prided themselves on their military prowess for centuries. They had conquered dozens of worlds, defeated countless enemies. But they had never faced an enemy that fought like this. The humans weren't just soldiers following orders. They were predators who had learned to hunt together, and they were very, very good at it. Back on the transport, Minji asked Jiho the question that was bothering her. How did you coordinate so well without constant communication? Jiho thought about it for a moment. We're human, he said simply. We've been hunting in packs since before we invented language. It's in our DNA. We just know how to work together when we need to. That answer would have terrified the Galactic Council if they had heard it. The combat simulation facility was the most advanced in galactic space, built by the Council specifically to test different species' military capabilities. It could recreate any environment, any scenario, any challenge. Commander Taiyang stood at the entrance with his team, looking at the massive structure with calm eyes. Remember, he told his Marines, this isn't about showing off. This is about teaching them who we are. His team consisted of 12 humans, all military specialists. They had trained together for months preparing for this evaluation. The Galactic Council wanted to see if human combat effectiveness was luck or skill. Taiyang intended to show them it was neither. It was something deeper. The first test was zero-gravity combat. The humans would face a team of Realm warriors, a species that had evolved in asteroid fields and were considered the best zero-G fighters in the galaxy. The Vreln were confident, almost amused by the challenge. Humans were planet dwellers, gravity-dependent. This would be quick. The simulation started. Both teams launched into the combat zone, a maze of floating debris and obstacles. The Vreln moved like they were born in vacuum, spinning and striking with their multiple limbs using every axis of movement. Taiyang's team moved differently. They didn't try to match the Vreln's natural grace. Instead, they used physics. They rebounded off surfaces, used debris as shields and weapons, worked together to control space and movement. One Marine would push off in one direction while another caught them and redirected their momentum. The Vreln found themselves being herded, controlled, forced into positions where human weapons had clean lines of fire. When a human got hit, another immediately covered the gap. They fought like a machine, each part supporting the others. The simulation ended with the humans victorious. The Vreln team leader clicked his mandibles in confusion. How did you adapt to zero gravity so quickly? Your species evolved on a heavy gravity world. We practice, Taiyang said simply. We train for environments we might never fight in just in case we need to. The council observers watched from their monitoring station. One of them, a member of the peaceful Quinn species, was troubled. They train for war even in times of peace? This seems obsessive. It's survival, Thrixall explained. He had been invited as an expert on human psychology after his earlier research. Humans prepare for worst-case scenarios constantly. They call it better safe than sorry. The next test was planet-side warfare in a hostile environment. The humans faced Kralix warriors, massive beings covered in natural armor plates considered nearly indestructible. The Kralix had conquered 11 worlds through simple, overwhelming force. They were the Council's heaviest assault specialists. The terrain was a volcanic world with unstable ground, toxic atmosphere, and extreme heat. The Kralix marched forward in a straight line, confident their armor would protect them from both the environment and human weapons. Taeyang looked at his tactical display and smiled. Hana, set up triage behind that ridge. Everyone else, make them chase us into the kill zone. The humans scattered like smoke, drawing the Kralix into rough terrain where their size became a disadvantage. The Kralix warriors were strong and tough, but the ground kept breaking under their weight. They sank into hot spots, stumbled over unstable rocks, struggled with the environment. The humans ran circles around them, literally. They used the terrain as a weapon, leading individual Kralix away from the group, isolating them, then hitting them from multiple angles. They targeted joints in the armor, weak spots that wouldn't be obvious without study. Hana, the human medic, set up her position and treated wounded Marines while keeping one eye on the battle. When a Kralix warrior broke through and charged at her position, she calmly shot him in the knee joint with a medical laser repurposed as a weapon, then went back to bandaging a Marine's burn. The council observers were silent. They had seen countless species fight, but this was different. The humans weren't just fighting. They were thinking several steps ahead, turning every element of the environment into an advantage. The medic is still combat capable while treating injured, one observer noted. She switches between caring and killing without hesitation. Thrixall understood what was bothering them. Humans compartmentalize. They can hold opposing thoughts and feelings at the same time. She cares about saving lives, but she'll take one if necessary. It doesn't create conflict in her mind. The final test was the one that truly frightened the council. It was a scenario with no clear solution, designed to test decision-making under pressure. Both sides would have casualties. Both sides would suffer. Most species, when faced with such a scenario, would seek negotiation or retreat. Taeyang studied the briefing. His team would need to capture a fortified position. The defenders had superior firepower and position. Success would cost lives. He could see his Marines waiting for his decision, knowing some of them might not survive the simulation. We go in fast and hard, he said. 3 teams. First team draws fire and takes casualties. Second team flanks during the distraction. Third team finishes it. One of the younger Marines, Dongyun, spoke up. Sir, first team will take heavy losses. Yes, Taeyang said. I'll lead first team. You'll be in second. Make our sacrifice count, the simulation began. Taeyang's first team charged directly at the fortified position, drawing massive fire. The simulation registered 3 dead, 2 wounded within seconds. But while the defenders focused on the frontal assault, the second team worked their way around. The council observers watched in horror as human soldiers kept advancing even when hit. The simulation registered pain, injury, but the humans pushed through it. Some literally crawled forward after being virtually shot, providing cover for their teammates. Why don't they retreat? A council member asked. They're losing. They're winning, Thrixall corrected. Watch the flanking team. The second team reached the weak point in the defenses. The third team poured in behind them. Within minutes, the fortified position fell. The cost was high, 8 humans down. But they had succeeded where the council said success was impossible. After the simulation ended, the council interviewed the human team. They needed to understand the psychology behind what they had seen. How do you accept such casualties? They asked Taeyang. We don't accept them, he replied. We hate it. Every loss hurts, but sometimes the only way through hell is straight ahead. We learned that a long time ago. They asked Hana how she could heal and hurt with equal efficiency. Because both are necessary, she said. I save the people I can, and I stop the people who are trying to kill us. It's not complicated. They asked Dongyun, who had lost half his team in the simulation, how he felt. Sad, he said honestly. Angry, but also proud. They did what they had to do. We all did. The council didn't understand. In their cultures, casualties were to be avoided at all costs. The idea of accepting losses for a greater goal seemed barbaric. But the humans saw it differently. They had been fighting for so long that they had developed a warrior culture, a military mindset that could hold contradicting truths at the same time. You could hate war and be good at it. You could value life and take it. You could be compassionate and ruthless. Humans lived in that contradiction every day. The evaluations concluded with the council's report. The document was marked with the highest security classification. Its conclusions were simple and terrifying. Humans were not just physically capable warriors. They were psychologically prepared for war in ways the council's species could barely comprehend. They trained constantly for combat they hoped would never happen. They studied warfare like it was art and science combined. They could make terrible decisions and live with the consequences. Most disturbing was their ability to compartmentalize. A human could kill you, feel genuine sadness about it, and still consider it the right choice. They could be your friend one moment and your enemy the next without it breaking their mind. What do we do with this information? A council member asked after reading the report. Minji, attending via holographic link, answered that question. You accept that humans are what we are. We didn't choose to evolve on a world that made us into warriors, but we've learned to live with what we are. The question isn't whether we're scary. The question is whether you want us on your side. The council chamber was very, very quiet. They were beginning to understand that humanity's scariest weapon wasn't their endurance or their tactics or their adaptability. It was their willingness to do whatever necessary and live with the weight of those choices afterward. That kind of strength was more frightening than any weapon. The Dravik Empire's War Council met in their homeworld's most secure facility. The Supreme Commander, a scarred veteran of 50 campaigns, looked at the assembled generals with eyes that burned with wounded pride. We have been humiliated, he said, defeated by a species we considered beneath notice. This cannot stand, the generals agreed. The Dravik had built their empire on military superiority. To be beaten by humans repeatedly was destroying their reputation across the galaxy. Something had to be done. We propose total war against Earth, the Supreme Commander declared. We will gather our full fleet, overwhelm their defenses, and erase this species from existence. One general asked the obvious question, what if we lose? We won't, the commander replied. We have numbers, superior technology, and the element of surprise. The humans are scattered across multiple colonies. We'll strike them all at once before they can organize. What the Dravik didn't know was that Earth had been preparing since the first encounter at Titan. Admiral Borum stood in Earth's military headquarters, looking at intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. They're mobilizing, she told her staff. The Dravik are preparing for a full-scale assault. When? Asked one of her officers. 3 weeks, maybe less, Borum replied. They're pulling ships from all over their empire. It's going to be the largest fleet action in galactic history. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council, Sunho presented humanity's case. He was Earth's best diplomatic speaker, chosen specifically because he could remain calm under pressure. The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all debating what to do about the coming war. The Dravik are mobilizing for war, Sunho said calmly, not just against a few human colonies, but against all of humanity. We ask the council to stand with us against this aggression. A council member from a peaceful species raised an objection. Perhaps humans provoked this response. Your species seems unusually violent. Maybe it would be better if we allowed the Dravik to handle this problem. Sunho expected this argument. We defended ourselves. We didn't start any of these fights. But if you're suggesting we should accept conquest peacefully, I need to explain something about human nature. We don't know how to do that. He displayed historical records from Earth, humanity's long, bloody history of warfare, not to shock them, but to make them understand. We've been fighting for millions of years, Sunho explained. We fought animals, we fought nature, we fought each other. We learned that survival means refusing to give up no matter the odds. You're asking us to abandon everything that kept our species alive. Thrixel, present as an expert witness, added his voice. If the council allows the Dravik to attack humanity without response, we're setting a precedent. Any powerful species can simply eliminate weaker ones without consequence. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to help humanity. Others feared getting involved. Many were simply scared of both sides. While diplomats talked, both militaries prepared. The Dravik assembled a fleet of 3,000 warships, the largest battle group ever created in modern galactic history. Every available ship, every trained soldier, every weapon they could manufacture. They would crush humanity once and for all. Earth's response was different. Admiral Borum didn't have 3,000 warships. She had maybe 200 military vessels and another 100 converted civilian ships. The numbers were terrible, but humans had never let bad numbers stop them before. "We can't fight them ship to ship," she told her fleet commanders. "We need to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than they expect." Her plan was pure human thinking. Don't fight where the enemy is strong. Hit them where they're weak. Use unconventional tactics. Make them afraid. The Dravik fleet moved toward Earth's colonies in a massive formation, expecting to overwhelm any resistance. They targeted 5 colonies simultaneously, planning to destroy them before help could arrive. What they found instead was that the colonies had been evacuated. No civilians, minimal military presence, just automated defenses. The Dravik wasted time and ammunition destroying empty buildings while human forces maneuvered into position. On one colony, a volunteer militia led by Minho held a single strategic location. Minho had been an athlete before the war, with no military training. But he and 50 other volunteers held a mountain pass that controlled access to the planet's main water supply. The Dravik sent 500 soldiers to clear them out. It should have taken an hour. Instead, the volunteers fought for 2 days, using hunting rifles and improvised explosives, following tactics they learned from military broadcasts. By the time the Dravik took the pass, they had lost 200 soldiers, and Earth's main fleet had arrived. Across the colonies, similar stories played out. Civilians becoming soldiers, using local knowledge and human stubbornness to slow the Dravik advance. Doctors like Jisoo set up field hospitals in combat zones, treating wounded while battles raged around them. The Dravik were confused and frustrated. Every victory cost them too much. Every colony took too long to secure. The humans weren't fighting a conventional war. They were fighting a human war. Admiral Borum's fleet struck at the Dravik supply lines, destroying support vessels and forcing the main fleet to split up. She never engaged in direct battle, always hitting and running, using faster ships and unpredictable tactics. "They're everywhere," the Dravik Supreme Commander complained. "We destroy one group, 3 more appear. We secure a position, they infiltrate it. How are they doing this?" His tactical officer had the answer. "They're not following any military doctrine we understand. Every unit acts independently. Every commander makes their own decisions. There's no central command structure to break. It was the pack-hunting instinct on a galactic scale. Human ships worked together without needing constant orders. Human colonies supported each other in unexpected ways. Human commanders adapted faster than the Dravik could counter." The battle that broke the Dravik Empire happened at the Antares colony. The Dravik committed their entire reserve fleet to take this one strategic location. 500 warships against 50 human vessels defending the colony. Admiral Borum knew she couldn't win a straight fight, so she didn't try. Instead, she led the Dravik fleet into the Antares asteroid field, where human ships had prepared for weeks. The asteroids were rigged with explosives, hidden weapons platforms, and traps. The battle turned into a nightmare for the Dravik. Their larger ships couldn't maneuver in the tight spaces. Their superior firepower didn't matter when they couldn't see targets. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, fired, and vanished before the Dravik could respond. For 6 hours, the Dravik fleet fought in confusion and chaos. They destroyed many human ships, but they couldn't land a decisive blow. More importantly, they couldn't accept losses the way humans could. When 50 Dravik vessels were destroyed, their fleet started to break. "Pull back," the Supreme Commander ordered. "Regroup at safe distance." But there was no safe distance. Human ships hunted the retreating Dravik across the system, picking off stragglers, destroying wounded vessels. By the time the Dravik escaped, they had lost 200 ships and thousands of soldiers. The Supreme Commander stared at his tactical display in defeat. "They don't fight to win," he said quietly. "They fight like they've already accepted death. There is no defeating that." He sent a message to Earth requesting peace negotiations. Not surrender, not victory, just an end to fighting. The Dravic Empire could not continue this war. Every battle cost too much. Every engagement proved that humans would never stop fighting. At the Galactic Council, the news of the Dravic withdrawal caused immediate reaction. The Council had been preparing to send peacekeepers to stop the war. Now they were faced with a different situation. Humanity had defended itself successfully against a vastly superior force. "We should offer humanity a permanent council seat," suggested Thrixol, "and designate Earth as a protected world." "Protected?" asked another representative. "From whom?" "From everyone," Thrixol replied. "We've seen what happens when someone attacks humanity. They don't just fight back, they refuse to lose. It's better to have them as allies than enemies." The vote was unanimous. Earth received a council seat and protected status, not out of respect, but out of fear. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. You don't fight persistence hunters unless you're willing to fight forever. Sunho accepted the council's offer in a speech that would be remembered for generations. "Humans never wanted to be scary," he said. "We just wanted to survive, to build, to explore the galaxy in peace. But our history taught us that survival requires strength. We hope this war has taught everyone a different lesson. Leave us alone, and we'll be your best friends. But threaten us, and you'll discover why we survived when stronger species went extinct." Back on Titan Colony, where everything had started, Hyun stood at a memorial for the people who died in the first battle. New names had been added, soldiers and civilians who fell in the recent war. He touched each name gently. "We won," said a voice behind him. It was Dae-hyun, the medical officer who had participated in the council's tests. "Did we?" Hyun asked. "A lot of people died, a lot of families broken. Is that winning?" "We're still here," Dae-hyun replied. "We're still free. Our children will grow up without fear of conquest. That's winning, even if it doesn't feel like it." Hyun nodded slowly. That was the burden of being human. They could do terrible things when necessary, and they had to live with those choices afterward. They could be warriors and peacekeepers, violent and compassionate, scary and kind. "The galaxy thinks we're dangerous," Hyun said. "We are dangerous," Dae-hyun agreed, "but we're also capable of being so much more. Maybe now they'll give us the chance to show them that side too." Across human space, people returned to their lives. Miners went back to mining, doctors to healing, engineers to building. The weapons were stored, the soldiers stood down, the fleets went into reserve status. Humanity didn't want to be warriors. They just refused to be victims. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives from dozens of species watched humanity with new eyes. These strange apes from a death world had proven themselves capable of terrible violence, but also incredible courage. They had fought not for conquest or glory, but simply to protect their right to exist. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. Humans were scary when threatened, but perhaps in time they could be something else. Partners, allies, friends, as long as you never, ever made them your enemy.